Bible in a year, making it easier to understand.
Imagine you're starting a new job. Your boss hands you a manual and says, Step 1, don't look at the product. If you catch even a glimpse of the internal components while you're moving them, you're dead. Not fired, dead. That is exactly what the Kohathite clan heard on day 59. This isn't just a census. It's a high-stakes operations manual for God's mobile headquarters where a single slip of the eye changes everything.
Okay, John, way to set the mood. Welcome back, everyone, to the Bible in a Year, Making It Easier to Understand podcast. I'm Stephanie, the one usually stressing about the why and the heart behind these stories.
And I'm John, the how guy, the one who loves the high-energy logistics. And boy, does Numbers 4 deliver on logistics today. It's like we're reading the most intense HR manual in history.
It really is. I mean, we just finished counting the army for the other tribes, and now we're getting into the nitty-gritty of the Levites, and it's so specific. I was reading through Numbers 4 this morning, and I kept thinking about our last move. Remember when the movers dropped that box of fragile kitchenware and just looked at us like, oops?
Oh, I remember. I still haven't found the lid to that one pot.
Exactly. But for the Levites, specifically the Kohathites, there was no oops. If they saw the holy things uncovered, or if they touched them, the text says they would die. It makes me wonder, John, why the stakes were so incredibly high for just moving furniture.
Here's the deal, Steph. We have to stop thinking of the tabernacle as just a tent. In the research, we see it described as God's mobile headquarters. It's a space where the holiness of God, which is like a sun level of energy, is actually dwelling right in the middle of a bunch of people who, let's be honest, aren't perfect.
Right. The living God is right there.
Yes. So, Numbers 4 isn't just about moving. It's about insulating the people from that power for their own safety. It's holy HR. And look at the age requirement. This is a huge modern mirror for me. They didn't just take anyone. They only counted men between the ages of 30 and 50.
Why that specific range? In the other tribes, the military service started at 20. Why wait an extra 10 years to carry a curtain?
It's all about reverent maturity. Modern kinesiology actually shows that 30 to 50 is the physiological and psychological sweet spot for maximal load-bearing combined with seasoned judgment. You need the physical strength of a man in his prime to carry those heavy gold-covered poles, but you need the maturity not to get curious and peek under the blue cloth.
So, no 20-year-old energy allowed near the Ark of the Covenant?
Exactly. You don't want the move fast and break things crowd handling the Ark. You want the guys who have lived long enough to know that when God says, don't look, he's not being a micromanager. He's being a protector. It's like a senior lead role in cybersecurity.
I love that. And I noticed the Levites are split into 3 clans, the Kohathites, the Gershonites, and the Merarites. It's such a specialized team. It's like God is the ultimate project manager.
Oh, he totally is. Think about the breakdown. The Kohathites, overseen by Eleazar, had the most holy job. They carried the ark, the table of showbread, and the lampstand. But here's the kicker. They had to carry them on their shoulders using poles. No carts, no tech.
Wait, I missed that. Why couldn't they use carts? The other clans got them.
Right. The Gershonites and Merarites, overseen by Ithamar, actually got ox carts, 6 carts and 12 oxen in total. They were the structural engineers and UX designers. They handled the curtains, the frames, and the heavy bases. That stuff is bulky and heavy, so God gave them tools. But the Kohathites? Their burden was symbolic and personal. They had to bear the presence of God on their own shoulders.
That's such a powerful image, John. It's like saying some parts of our faith can be assisted by tech or community, but the most sacred parts, that personal connection to God's presence, that's something you have to carry personally. You can't outsource it to an ox cart.
Boom! Text that to someone right now. But seriously, look at the detail in the packing. Before the Kohathites even entered the tent, Aaron and the priest had to go in and cover everything. They used a veil of the screen for the ark, then a goatskin covering, and finally a cloth of all blue.
Why the colors? Blue for the ark, scarlet for the table, purple for the altar?
It's like a visual hierarchy or a color-coded filing system for holiness. Blue often represented the heavens or the divine. When the camp was moving, everyone would see that blue cloth and know exactly where the heart of the camp was. It kept the order. It prevented chaos.
It's interesting that the census for the Kohathites came out to 2,750 men who were in that 30 to 50 age bracket. That's a lot of specialized workers just for one clan.
It is, and it shows that God doesn't leave anything to chance. In ancient times, moving a sanctuary was usually a disorganized mess of every man for himself. But in Israel, it was a balanced logistical system. No other culture had this level of precision for a portable shrine.
It makes me think about how we treat sacred things today. We live in such an unfiltered access culture. We want to see everything, touch everything, and post it on our stories. Numbers 4 is this huge wait a second moment. It's telling us that some things are so holy, they require a mediator.
Yeah, and that mediator was Aaron and his sons. They were the firewall between the workers and the divine fire. It actually points toward Jesus, doesn't it? He's the ultimate mediator who lets us approach the throne without the fear of the Kohathites.
I love that. So, even in the middle of a census of poles and curtains, we're seeing the blueprint of how God wants to live with us, ordered, safe, and deeply respected.
Exactly. But man, once the staffing is done, we have to look at the community rules in Numbers 5, and that's where things get, well, they get complicated. We're talking social distancing and bitter water.
Yeah, the law of jealousy. I have a lot of questions about that one, John. It feels so heavy compared to the moving day excitement.
It is heavy. But it's all about protecting the vibe of the camp where God lives. If the logistics in Chapter 4 are the hard drive of the tabernacle, Chapter 5 is the security software to make sure no viruses, spiritual or social, break the system.
Security software. I like that. All right, we're going to take a quick break to let everyone process their holy HR manuals. And when we come back, we're diving into the 20% rule and the ritual that has everyone talking on social media.
Stick around, guys. It's about to get real.
And we are back from our quick coffee break. I hope you all had a second to hydrate, though after reading what's coming up in Numbers 5, you might be a little wary of what's in your cup.
Yeah, no bitter water in this studio today, just straight up cold brew. But seriously, folks, we are shifting gears. We just spent segment 1 talking about the high-stakes moving day for the Levite clans, the logistics of God's mobile headquarters. But now, we're looking at what happens to the people living around that headquarters.
This is where it gets personal, John. Chapter 5 opens with 3 commands that, honestly, feel a little harsh at first glance. It says anyone with a skin disease, a discharge, or who has touched a dead body has to be put outside the camp. To a modern ear, that sounds like ancient cancel culture for the sick.
I totally get why it reads that way, but let's look at the modern mirror. We just came through a few years where social distancing and quarantine became part of our daily vocabulary, right?
Oh, don't remind me.
I know. But why did we do it? We did it to protect the community. In the ancient camp, the stakes were even higher because of that phrase we see in verse 3, in the midst of which I dwell. See, God's presence is pure life. Death, decay, and disease are the literal opposite of that energy. Putting people outside the camp wasn't about hating them. It was about protecting the vibe of a sacred space where a holy God lived.
So, it's less about you're gross, get out, and more about we have to keep this environment sterile because of who's living in the center of it.
Exactly. Think of it like a high-tech clean room where they build microchips. You can't just walk in with a bag of chips and a soda. You have to wear the suit. You have to follow the protocol. It's about the integrity of the space.
Okay, I can get behind the quarantine logic, but then we move into verses 5 through 10, which talk about making things right when you wrong someone. And this is where the 20% rule comes in.
Here's the deal. Confession is just step 1. In God's economy, saying, "I'm sorry" in the group chat isn't enough. The text says if you defraud someone, you have to make full restitution. That's 100% of the value, plus an extra 1/5. That's a 20% guilt tax.
A guilt tax. I love that. So, if I borrow your $1,000 laptop and accidentally drop it in the pool, I don't just buy you a new laptop.
Nope. According to Numbers 5, you owe me the laptop plus a $200 gift card for the stress and the breach of trust. The research calls this the 20% interest on sin. It teaches us that restoration has a cost. It's about making the victim more than whole.
That feels so relevant today. We often think an apology is a get-out-of-jail-free card, but this word the Bible uses, Mal, it means breaking faith. It tells us that when we lie to each other, we are actually breaking faith with God. Our relationships are connected to our spiritual standing.
It's like having a verified blue check mark on your character. If you lose that trust by being shady, you have to do the work to earn it back. You can't just buy the check mark back. You have to prove you're invested in the community's health.
Okay, John, we have to talk about the elephant in the room. The rest of chapter 5, the law of jealousy. This is one of those difficult verses we promised to dive into. A husband gets suspicious that his wife was unfaithful, but he has no proof, no witnesses. He just has a spirit of jealousy.
Yeah, this one is tough. He takes her to the priest. She drinks this mixture of holy water and holy dust. And if she's guilty, her belly swells and her thigh rots. If she's innocent, she's fine and can still have kids.
John, to a woman reading this today, it feels incredibly one-sided. Why is there no bitter water test for the husband? Why is she the only one subjected to this public ordeal based on a hunch?
That is a huge question, and it's why people struggle with this. But here is the flashlight moment. In the ancient Near East, a husband's jealousy often ended in immediate domestic violence or honor killings. Men took the law into their own hands.
So, you're saying this was a protective measure?
Believe it or not, yes. This ritual took the judgment out of the husband's hands and placed it in God's hands. Think about it. The potion was just dust and water. Unless God performed a literal miracle of judgment, that woman was going to walk away 100% fine every single time.
Wait, so the ritual was designed to exonerate her?
Exactly. It was a divine lie detector test that almost always resulted in a not guilty verdict. It publicly vindicated the woman and legally silenced the husband's jealousy. It stopped him from being the judge, jury, and executioner. It gave her a way to prove a negative in a world where she had no legal voice.
Wow. So while it looks like a trial, it was actually a release valve for a dangerous situation. It forced the husband to put up or shut up and let God be the judge.
Right? And it reminds the whole community that God sees what is hidden from the eyes. You might hide a secret in a DM or a deleted text, but in the camp of Israel, the truth always comes to the surface because the living God is dwelling right there.
It's heavy, but it makes so much sense when you see it as a way to prevent violence. God is interested in the truth, not just vibes and hunches.
Boom. And that truth is exactly what David is crying out for in our psalm today. He's being betrayed, and he needs God to be that divine lie detector for him.
I love how that connects. We're going to take one more break to catch our breath, and then we're coming back with segment 3, the snitch in the group chat, and why David's prayer is the ultimate survival guide for when people turn on you.
Don't go anywhere. We're finishing day 59 strong.
And we are back. I hope you guys are still with us, because we're about to tie all these logistics of holiness and ordeals of trust together with a bow made of ancient Hebrew poetry.
A poetic bow. I like that, Steph. We've covered the holy HR manual of Numbers 4 and the intense security software of the camp in Numbers 5. But now we're pivoting to Psalm 54, which is basically a raw, unfiltered look at what it feels like when you're the one stuck in an ordeal and the group chat has turned against you.
It really is. I love that we're ending today with David. This psalm has a specific liner note at the top. It's a maskil of David, written when the Ziphites went to Saul and said, "Is not David hiding among us?"
Here's the modern mirror context, guys. David is a fugitive. He's running for his life from King Saul, who is basically obsessed with taking him out. David goes to the wilderness of Ziph, thinking he's safe because the Ziphites are from his own tribe, the tribe of Judah. These are his people.
And instead of having his back, they snitch. They go straight to the CEO to get some clout. It's the ultimate betrayal of community.
Total betrayal. And look at David's response in verse 1. "O God, save me by your name, and vindicate me by your might." That word vindicate is our hidden gem for the day, Steph. In the Hebrew, it means to clear someone of blame or suspicion.
Wait, John, that's the exact same thing the woman in the law of jealousy was looking for, right? She was under a cloud of suspicion, and she needed God to vindicate her because no one else could prove her innocence.
Boom! You nailed it. This is the connection segment. Whether you're an ancient wife facing a jealous husband or a future king being sold out by his cousins, the message of day 59 is that when human trust is a total wreck, God is the ultimate witness who knows the truth. David calls his enemies strangers in verse 3, even though they were technically his kin, because they do not set God before themselves.
I love that. It's like saying, if you aren't living by God's standards of truth, you're a stranger to the community, no matter what your DNA says. But John, we have to talk about the word study you mentioned earlier. Mal.
Oh yeah, this is the core of today's deep dive. In Numbers 5:6, when the Bible talks about someone wronging another person, it uses the word ma'al, which translates to breaking faith or committing a trespass. But here's the kicker. It says they are breaking faith with the Lord.
So, if I lie to you or steal from you, God takes it personally?
Every single time. In the biblical worldview, there is no private sin. Every time we betray a human trust, we are fracturing our relationship with the holy God who lives in the middle of the camp. Sin is treachery against the covenant. That's why the restitution is so high, 20% on top, because you aren't just paying back a debt, you're healing a breach of faith.
That makes the Levite service in Numbers 4 make even more sense. The word for their work is aboda. It literally means work or labor, but it's the same word used for worship.
Yes, it's service of the heart. Whether you're carrying a heavy gold pole on your shoulder like a Kohathite or praying a desperate prayer in a cave like David, it's all aboda. It's all a specialized role in God's big plan to keep his presence among us.
So, my aboda today was organizing the pantry, and your aboda was explaining the law of jealousy without making everyone turn off the podcast?
Exactly. We all have a specific thing to carry. David's thing was his confidence. Look at verse 4. Behold, God is my helper. The Lord is the upholder of my life. He moves from being snitched on to being upheld.
And he ends the psalm by promising a free will offering. I looked this up in the research, John. A free will offering isn't something the law required him to do. It's a sacrifice of praise that he chooses to give because he's so sure God has already delivered him.
It's like saying, God, you haven't even taken Saul off my back yet, but I'm so sure you're going to vindicate me that I'm already writing the check for the celebration. That is fearless confidence.
That is such a powerful takeaway for us today. Maybe you're feeling outside the camp because of a mistake or a sickness. Maybe you're dealing with a spirit of jealousy in your marriage or a betrayal at work. Day 59 is telling us, God knows the truth. He values specialized service, and he is the upholder of your life when everyone else lets you down.
Bottom line, don't peek at the holy things. Pay your 20% interest when you mess up, and trust the upholder.
You always have the best summaries. All right, guys, here is your text message summary for day 59. God loves order in his house and honesty in our hearts. He's got a plan for the heavy lifting and a path for healing our betrayals.
And for your action step today, is there a breach of faith you need to heal? Maybe it's time to apply that 20% rule, not just an I'm sorry, but a radical act of making things more than right with someone you've wronged.
We love you guys. Thank you for walking through these difficult verses with us. We're one day closer to the promised land.
See you tomorrow for day 60. Peace.
This has been The Bible in a Year, Making It Easier to Understand podcast. If this helped you, share it with a friend who might be stuck in their own Ziphite moment.